The first thing I do, after waking up back before the apocalypse, is spend every last cent I have. I buy an underground mall that's been abandoned for 10 years. Everyone says I've lost my mind. Even the real estate agent laughs at me, calling me a fool. The construction foreman stands at the pitch-black entrance and can't help but ask, "Boss, not even rats want to live in this place. Why on earth would you buy it?" I just smile and say nothing. Because only I know the apocalypse is coming in 7 days. When it hits, a massive snowfall will cover the entire globe. And this is no ordinary snow. The snow carries an unknown spore. The moment it touches exposed skin, or enters the body through a wound, the nose, or the mouth, the mildest outcome is a raging fever and unconsciousness. The worst outcome is complete loss of reason, turning into one of the infected, driven only to attack the living. And that's only the beginning of the end. Once the great snowfall arrives, global temperatures will plunge, minus 30 degrees Celsius, then minus 50, eventually settling below minus 80. Power grids will collapse, communications will go dark, city heating will shut down. Within just a few days, the once thriving streets above ground will turn into a living hell. By then, money will be worthless paper. Gold won't mean anything either. What actually keeps you alive is hot water, food, medicine, and fuel. A cup of hot water will be worth a gold ring. A single ration bar can make even the proudest person abandon every shred of their dignity. A single bag of coal is enough to turn an entire apartment building against each other. And this underground mall that everyone despises will become the city's last shelter. In my past life, I died 6 months after the great snowfall began. Back then, I threw everything I had into protecting my fiancée, Vivian Lane. I gave her my last thermal suit, my last bowl of hot soup. I even trekked 3 full kilometers through the storm just to find her a box of fever medicine. But in the end, it was her own hands that opened the door of our safe house, telling Derek Kane everything about the supplies I'd hidden away for half a year. That night, Derek stormed my safe house with over a dozen survivors. They took my rice, took my medicine, took every last hope I had of surviving. And Vivian, wearing the very thermal suit I'd nearly died for, stood behind Derek and looked at me coldly. "Ethan, don't blame me. There's only so much to go around. I can't exactly freeze to death right alongside you." Then Derek shoved me out the door. Snow at minus 80 degrees fell against my face. I didn't lose consciousness, right away. I heard the sound of a can being opened behind that door. I heard Derek laugh and say a piece of trash like me lasting this long was already lucky. Vivian didn't say a word in my defense. She just gave a soft little laugh. That was the moment I finally understood. In the apocalypse, the coldest thing was never the snow. It was the human heart. When I opened my eyes again, I'm back. 7 days before the great snowfall. My phone screen still shows the message Vivian sent me. "Ethan, my mom says marriage needs security. Transfer the house into my name first. We're going to be a family sooner or later anyway. You wouldn't deny me even that much, would you?" I stare at those words, then set the phone face down on the table. In my past life, I signed my parents' house over to her name for exactly this so-called security. And after the apocalypse hit, she used that very house as her bargaining chip to buy Derek's protection. This time around, she wants my house again. Not a chance. I grab the property deed and head straight for the bank. 3 hours later, the mortgage goes through. Then I cash out my stocks and funds, sell off the few storefronts my parents left me, and even the car and a handful of valuable collectibles, all liquidated at a discount. By the end, I've pulled together over 80 million yuan. Before the apocalypse, this kind of money would set me up for a comfortable life. But in 7 days, it'll all be worthless paper. I'm not in a rush to buy supplies yet because I know all too well. No matter how much you stockpile, without a safe place to store it, it's just a gift for someone else to take. So my very first move is to contact the owner of that abandoned underground mall on the outskirts of the city. I already checked the property title in my past life. It's impossibly clean, no mortgages, no debt disputes, none of the messy ownership tangles. Its only problem is the location, too remote, vacant for far too long. Nobody wants to touch it. The place was originally built 10 years ago as an underground shopping street. After poor management, it's sat empty ever since. The ground level entrance is run down, the space below is cold and damp, and there's barely any foot traffic. To everyone else, it's a dead deal nobody wanted. But I know better. It has 3 underground levels, thick walls, and a fully intact ventilation system. There's even its own independent well. More importantly, it was originally converted from a civil defense structure. The main structure, ventilation ducts, drainage system, and part of the backup wiring are all still there. I don't need to build from scratch, just seal, reinforce, and restore what's already in place. With a little renovation, this becomes a natural doomsday bunker. The moment the owner hears, "I want to buy it," his eyes light up. "Young man, you're sure you want that place?" "I'm sure. Back when it was built, it cost over 50 million. If you're really serious, 8 million, and I'll throw in the title and the underground parking with it. 5.8 million. The owner freezes for a second. I continue. "We signed the contract today. Payment goes through today, too." He falls silent for a moment, then slaps his knee. "Deal." To him, that underground mall has been dead weight for 10 years. Every year, the upkeep and unpaid fees hang off him like a rotting limb. Now that someone's actually willing to take it off his hands, he practically wants to shove the keys into mine that same night. The contract signed, I wire the 5.8 million immediately. He looks at me like I'm a complete fool. What he doesn't know is that in 7 days, forget 5.8 million, I wouldn't trade this underground mall for an entire downtown skyscraper. The moment the deal closes, I bring in a construction crew with one demand only. Turn this underground mall into a real doomsday bunker within 7 days. Basement level 1 becomes the power room and a defensive buffer zone. Basement level 2 becomes the storage bay, the cold storage vault, and the medical bay. Basement level 3 becomes the living quarters. 3 reinforced blast doors go in at the entrance, every corridor gets isolation gates and electronic locks, and every exposed window is sealed shut. The vents get filtration systems and anti-backflow valves installed. Cameras cover every blind spot. After hearing my full list of demands, the foreman's face turns pale. Boss, are you renovating a mall or building a bomb shelter? I look at him. Is the money enough? More than enough. As long as the money's there, forget a shelter. I'll build you an underground palace. On the spot, I hand over a 500,000 deposit. The moment the foreman sees the payment notification, the suspicion on his face melts into eagerness. Don't worry, boss. I guarantee it'll be done in 7 days. With the bunker renovation underway, I start the real stockpiling. Food, water, supplies, fuel, cold weather gear, anything that could save a life. Whatever the apocalypse demands, I buy it all. Fuel by the ton, medicine by the crate, food by the warehouse. Surveillance and protective gear are maxed out across the board. Salt, antibiotics, fever medicine, disinfectants. These are the priorities. In 7 days, a single small bag of salt will be worth people fighting to the death over. In this apocalypse, a box of antibiotics might as well be a second life. I buy up a batch of frozen meat rejected by a supermarket chain's canceled order. Beef, lamb chops, chicken legs, frozen shrimp, ready-to-cook meals, all fully certified. The only reason it's up for grabs is that the order fell through and it's just taking up cold storage space. When the manager sees me order 20 truckloads in one go, his eyes go wide. You sure you want all of it, kid? That's a lot. Do you even have somewhere to store it? I nod. The cold storage vault's already ready. What he doesn't know is that to him, this is just clearing inventory. But to me, it's my survival for years to come. Once the snow hits, the city loses power, supermarkets get stripped bare, and logistics collapse entirely. By then, half a block of frozen meat is worth fighting to the death for. At 8 that night, 20 refrigerated trucks pull into the underground mall one after another. Crate after crate of beef, lamb chops, chicken legs, frozen shrimp, and ready-made meals hauled into the freezer vault. The construction crew stares in disbelief. The foreman can't help but ask, "Boss, are you opening a supermarket chain?" Close enough. What they don't know is that in 7 days, every supermarket will be rubble, every cold storage room a battleground, and the bunker beneath my feet will become the safest place in the entire city. Over the following days, the once cold, damp underground mall is completely transformed. The power room, storage bay, medical bay, and living quarters are all sectioned off and finished. The diesel generators, battery banks, and fuel reserves are wired into an independent grid. Even if the city's power grid collapses entirely, this place keeps running. Basement level 3, the living quarters, is finished exactly to my specifications. Bedrooms, a kitchen, a medical room, a gym, a control room, a grow room, everything's here. The water recycling and air filtration systems are running smoothly, and there's even a small home theater. I don't just want to survive. I want to live well. In my past life, I suffered enough. Moldy bread, filthy frozen water, scraps other people had already picked over. I never want to touch any of that again as long as I live. On the final night of the countdown, the crew finishes installing the last blast door. The foreman pats the heavy panel, beaming with pride. "Mr. Cole, you can trust this door. Forget a normal person, even a car ramming into it wouldn't budge it." I look at the heavy alloy door and nod, satisfied. A car definitely won't get through, but after tonight what comes knocking might not be a car at all. Once the final payment clears, the crew departs. The heavy blast door slowly swings shut. A single click, and the entire underground mall is completely sealed off from the outside world. I stand in the control room, watching dozens of screens light up at once. The main entrance, the backup passages, the vents, the underground parking garage, and the surrounding streets. I'd already hidden cameras on streetlights, abandoned electrical boxes, and behind billboards. I'd also bought up access to the old surveillance systems of a few nearby shops. Right now, every single feed plays clearly before my eyes. The bunker is fully complete, and every supply is fully stocked. Down in the storage bay on basement level 2, rows of shelves stand silently under the light. Grain, canned goods, ration bars, medicine, tools, protective gear, and emergency equipment, all sealed off by zone. Every door has both an electronic and a mechanical lock, and every corridor sits within camera range. I go down my checklist item by item. Food, water, medicine, fuel, heating, purification systems, defense systems, all accounted for. That's when my phone rings. Caller ID, Vivian Lane. I answer and her impatient voice comes through immediately. "Ethan, what is wrong with you? I texted you, why haven't you answered? My mom says if you don't transfer the house, this wedding is off. And I heard from Derek that you mortgaged the house. Have you lost your mind? That was supposed to be our wedding home," I say flatly. "Vivian, that house was left to me by my parents. It has nothing to do with you." Her voice instantly turns sharp. Ethan, are you seriously calculating with me right now? I'm your fiancé. You call yourself a man and you can't even give me a house and you say you love me? If this were my past life, hearing that would have sent me into a panic, apologizing on the spot, explaining myself, trying to soothe her, grinding my last bit of dignity into dust. But now I just find it laughable. Vivian, didn't you want security? Her tone finally softens a little. Now that's more like it. So tomorrow, I cut her off directly, go find Derek, he's got plenty of security for you. The other end of the line goes dead silent. A few seconds later she shrieks, furious. Ethan, are you out of your mind? How dare you talk to me like that? You think I won't cancel the wedding right now? Go ahead and cancel. And while you're at it, tell your mom the bride price is off too. Remember to refund me half the wedding photo fee. I hang up right after saying it. The next second, texts from Vivian start flooding in. Ethan, you're finished. It's still not too late to apologize. Let me tell you, plenty of guys are chasing me. Derek understands things a lot better than you do. Don't you dare regret this. I stare at that last line. Regret? I turn off the phone. In 7 days, the ones who'll be full of regret are the two of you. At midnight, the wind picks up outside. I walk over to the monitor wall. On the streets, people are still laughing and joking around. A delivery rider zips past on a scooter. The convenience store lights glow. Steam rises from a barbecue stand. The whole city is still lost in an ordinary, peaceful night. No one knows the countdown has already run out. At 12:01, the first snowflake drifts down from the sky. It lands on the back of a drunk man's hand on the sidewalk. He pauses, confused. What the hell kind of weather is this? Why is it suddenly snowing? I switch to a high-definition camera, zooming in. The next second, his movements freeze. Strange patterns spread across his skin. His eyes go glassy and unfocused. A low growl rises from his throat. Then he lunges violently at a passerby beside him. Screams erupt down the street. The snow keeps falling harder, and chaos takes over. People frantically brush snow off their bodies. Others turn and run. Some try to duck into the convenience store, only to find the doorway already jammed. Within minutes, the entire street spirals out of control. The camera feed shakes violently. Soon, all that's left on the snow are scattered footprints and dark, unmistakable stains. In that moment, the entire city plunges into darkness. Meanwhile, I sit safe and warm in my underground bunker, lifting a bowl of freshly made beef noodles. The broth is steaming hot, the beef tender. There's even a faint hint of scallion in the air. I watch the monitor screens, the chaos unfolding on the streets. I feel no satisfaction, only a heavy sense that it has finally, truly begun. This is where the real story starts. I don't rush to shut off the monitors, because I know the true chaos is only just beginning. In the first 10 minutes, most people still think this is just a sudden disaster, extreme weather, some brief anomaly. But 20 minutes in, the first wave of infected has already lost all control. They feel no cold, no pain, and no reason. The moment they hear a living voice, they're drawn straight toward it. On the monitors, the city's lights go dark, one section at a time. In the end, all that remains is the raging storm and distant screams echoing one after another. City communications haven't fully collapsed yet. Some cell towers are still running on backup power, the signal flickering in and out. No one knows how much longer it'll hold. That's exactly why messages start pouring into the birthday party group chat, one after another. What's going on out there? Why is it suddenly snowing? Someone's gone insane. The hotel entrance is chaos. Somebody call the police. I can't get through to emergency services. Ethan, do you know something about this? The one sending that last message is Derek Kane. Same as always. The moment danger arrives, his first instinct is never to take responsibility, it's to find someone else to blame. Right after that, a voice call comes in from Vivian. I don't answer. She calls again. I still don't answer. After 5 missed calls in a row, she finally sends a text. Ethan, where are you? Something's happening out here. Come pick me up now. I'm outside the Golden Grand Hotel. There are so many crazy people out here. Do you hear me? I look at the screen, my expression calm. The Golden Grand Hotel. Same as my past life, her birthday party is still being held there. Only this time, I never showed up. I text back 2 words, no time. The message barely sends before Vivian's reply comes flying back. Ethan, what does that mean? I'm your fiancé, it's dangerous out here, and you're telling me you don't have time? Are you even a man? Even with the apocalypse already underway, she still expects me to react exactly the way I always used to. One word from her, and I'd charge headfirst into danger to save her. I reply, the wedding's already off, you're not my fiancé anymore. There's a few seconds of silence on the other end, then a burst of text floods in. Ethan, are you insane? Is this really the time for a tantrum? Something huge is actually happening out here. Come get me right now. If you come, I'll even forgive your attitude today. Reading that, I nearly laugh out loud. Forgive me? Even now, she still thinks she's the one doing me a favor. I don't reply. Instead, I switch to the outer perimeter cameras I'd set up in advance. One of them happens to catch the street right outside the Golden Grand Hotel. The feed is choppy, but it's clear enough to make out the chaos at the hotel entrance. Several cars smashed together, the glass doors shattered across the ground, the lobby packed with people. Some try to push their way out, others push their way in. Soon, at a window of the second-floor banquet hall, I spot Vivian. She's still in her white gown, her carefully done makeup smeared beyond recognition, clutching her phone, crying, glancing frantically toward the street. Beside her, Derek braces the door shut, and a few of their mutual friends stand pale with terror. These are the same people who, in my past life, when I was thrown out of my own safe house, didn't say a single word in my defense. Now, they're finally tasting real fear for themselves. I close the group chat and start running through the bunker systems one by one. Power, normal. Heating, normal. Air filtration, normal. Water purification, normal. External surveillance, normal. All 3 blast doors locked down tight. In the power room on basement level 1, the diesel generator has already kicked in automatically, its low hum carrying through the back wall, like a heartbeat, steady and strong. Indoor temperature, 24 degrees. Outside, minus 36. And that number is still dropping. I know that by noon today at the latest, the outside temperature will plunge past minus 80. By then, forget ordinary people. Even vehicles will freeze solid and refuse to start. The true frozen hell hasn't even arrived yet. I wake the next day at 9 in the morning. The first thing I do is pull up the main monitor screen. The world outside has been completely transformed. The entire city lies buried under snow. The streets are packed with wrecked, abandoned cars. A billboard by the roadside has cracked from the frost, dangling precariously in midair. The convenience store entrance is a total wreck. A few infected drift slowly through the snow. The moment they hear the slightest sound, they snap their heads up, hunting for the source. I glance at the outdoor readout, minus 72 degrees, dropping even faster than it did in my past life. Just then, the bunker's external communication system suddenly pings. Someone is approaching the mall's entrance. I pull up the camera feed and see 3 men bundled in thick blankets. Scarves wrapped around their faces, hands tucked into their sleeves, only their eyes visible. They stumble through the storm toward the entrance. I recognize one of them. Gary Walsh, the property manager from a nearby residential complex. In my past life, early in the apocalypse, he organized survivors from several nearby complexes, claiming mutual aid on the surface while secretly stealing supplies from plenty of people behind their backs. This kind of person is more dangerous than any infected. Right now, Gary is pounding hard on the metal shutter outside the mall. Anyone there? Open the door. We're freezing to death out here. Is somebody in there? Open the door. Let us. I say nothing. I just watch the monitor in silence. Gary pounds for a while, and when there's no response, his expression sours instantly. I know someone's in there. This place has been under construction for days, hasn't it? Open the damn door. It's an emergency. Resources are meant to be shared. Hearing that, I switch on the outdoor speaker. A crackle of static, and then my voice comes through the entrance speaker. Says who? Gary snaps his head up toward the camera. Who are you? Then, as if it suddenly clicks, you're that fool who bought this underground mall a few days ago. Still think I'm a fool? Gary's face stiffens. The 2 men beside him eye the newly installed camera at the entrance, then the heavy blast door, and their expressions shift instantly. They realize this place has already been renovated. The trucks that kept driving into the mall over the past few days tipped them off about what might be inside. Electricity, heating, supplies. Gary immediately shifts his tone. Brother Ethan, we're all neighbors here. It's dangerous out here. You can't just watch us die, can you? Just let us in to warm up for a bit. Don't worry, we won't stay for free. We'll help guard this place together. Not taking anyone in. Ethan, don't be so selfish. Look at the state of things out here. Is it really fair for you to hog a place this size all by yourself? I don't take the bait. I just say calmly, I can give you directions. 300 meters east, there's a community clinic. Thick walls, multiple doors. It'll block the wind for now. 500 meters north of that, there's an underground parking garage entrance, easier to get into than this place. Leave now and you still have a chance. Keep pounding on this door, and you'll only draw the infected here. But Gary won't listen at all. He jabs a finger at the camera. Don't try to fool me. You just want to chase us off. When official rescue arrives, I'll be the first to report you. I watch the storm thickening behind him, my voice cooling a few degrees. Then you'd better survive long enough for that rescue to arrive. The words barely leave my mouth when a low growl echoes from somewhere far off. All 3 men freeze at once. On the monitor, a few swaying figures emerge slowly from around the street corner. Frost clings to their bodies, their pupils pitch black. Gary's voice changes instantly. Ethan, open the door. Open it now. I don't open the door, because I know full well. The moment that first door opens, endless trouble follows right behind it. The outer buffer zone hasn't even completed decontamination yet. Anyone carrying spores from the snow could tear the whole bunker apart. I give one final warning. Run east. There's still time. With that, I cut the broadcast. Outside, Gary pounds on the door in a frenzy, but the blast door doesn't so much as budge. The next second, several dark figures lunge into the storm, and the camera feed shakes violently. I don't keep watching. Not because I've gone soft, but because I already know the answer the apocalypse gives to everything. Shouting louder doesn't obligate anyone else to risk their life saving you. And guilt-tripping someone doesn't mean they owe you their only way out. At noon, the outdoor temperature reads minus 86 degrees. The snow keeps falling. The whole city looks buried under a thick shroud of ice. Barely a living soul remains on the streets. Only the infected drift slowly through the snow, their movements stiffer than they were last night. but their hearing seems sharper. A car alarm suddenly blares. Within 10 seconds, over a dozen dark shapes nearby all turn their heads at once, converging toward the source of the sound. I watch this unfold, my brow tightening slightly. Just like in my memory, creatures infected by the spores in the snow keep evolving. On day 1, they're drawn to loud, sudden noises. Starting on day 3, they grow sensitive to faint sounds and heat sources, becoming far more perceptive. By day 7, mutated variants appear, capable of climbing, capable of ramming through doors. Which means my bunker has exactly 7 days to survive its first real trial, and that trial arrives sooner than expected. At 2 in the afternoon, on the monitor, a crowd appears at the far end of the street outside the mall. Roughly 20 people, men and women, some supporting the wounded, others carrying bags on their backs. They must have made their way here from an underground parking garage in a nearby complex. Their bodies are wrapped in down jackets, quilts, plastic raincoats, even curtains, scarves wound around their faces, with makeshift transparent plastic sheets cut out for eye holes. Even so, frost has already formed thick on their eyebrows and lashes. On a few of them, dark patches have started to spread across the backs of their hands and necks. Not a normal sign. Blood is seeping through the gaps in their wrappings. Walking at the front of the group is none other than Gary. He's still alive somehow. Only now, the look in his eyes is even more unhinged than it was that morning. Beside him, several young men grip metal pipes, wrenches, and fire axes. This isn't a group asking for help. They've come to force the door open. I switch on the outdoor speaker. Stop! My voice carries out through the entrance speaker. The crowd goes still for a moment. Leave. This place isn't taking anyone in. Someone in the crowd immediately breaks down crying. How can you be so heartless? What's the harm in letting us warm up? One person hogging a place this big. Aren't you afraid of karma? Gary seizes the moment, raising his voice. You all heard that, right? He clearly has the space, the supplies, even heating equipment, and he still won't let us in. Talking about private property at a time like this. That's downright inhuman. I watch him quietly. I have to admit, Gary knows how to work a crowd. He knows he can't get in alone, so he ties everyone's fate together with his own. As long as I refuse to open the door, I become the villain in everyone's eyes. Too bad this trick doesn't work on me anymore. I say, first, this mall is mine. Second, this place hasn't finished decontamination for group intake. Third, some of you already have dark patches on your skin. If you force your way in, you'll drag everyone else down with you. Fourth, the louder you get at this door, the more infected you'll draw here. I give directions one more time. 300 meters east, a community clinic. 500 meters north, an underground parking garage. If you want to survive, leave now before they finish gathering. This is the last warning I'm giving. But Gary is clearly not satisfied. He sneers. Don't listen to him, everyone. He's just saying all this to trick us into leaving. He's got a huge stockpile in there for sure. If we all rush the door together, he won't dare keep it shut. Several young men immediately charge forward, swinging metal pipes and fire axes hard against the outer metal gate. Bang, bang, bang. The harsh clang of impact echoes far down the empty street. I give one final warning. Stop smashing the door. The noise will draw the infected here. But Gary acts like he didn't hear a word, shouting even louder. Everyone, shout together. Make him open it. He won't dare watch us die out here. The crowd, whipped into a frenzy, starts chanting, Open the door! Open the door! Open the door! The sound carrying far through the storm. I don't try to reason with them anymore. I just switch camera feeds, scanning both sides of the street. Sure enough, off in the distance, a few wandering infected slowly lift their heads. Then a second, a third, a fifth, more and more dark shapes turning around within the curtain of falling snow. They've heard the noise. Gary keeps shouting, Ethan, if you won't open this door, you're the one killing all of us. I lean back in my chair, watching him calmly. The one who led them here, that's you. The next second, the first dark shape bursts around the street corner. Someone in the crowd screams. The scene erupts into chaos instantly. The men who were smashing the door moments ago drop their tools and bolt. Someone trips and falls, others grab and shove each other, some scream and vanish into the curtain of snow. Gary's face goes white. He turns to flee, but he's barely taken 2 steps before a man grabs him hard by the arm. Gary, you're the one who said we'd get in here. Don't you dare run. Let go of me. You're the idiots who bought into it, not my problem. The moment those words leave his mouth, everyone around him turns pale with fury. But there's no time left for anger. The storm and chaos quickly swallow up the scene outside the door. I sit in the control room, not moving, not opening the door, because I know full well, if I go soft now, I'll be the one who ends up dead. A few minutes later, it goes quiet outside again. The snow keeps falling. Metal pipes, quilts, and a few loose shoes litter the ground. The survivors have already scattered in every direction. Gary is nowhere to be seen. Whether he escaped or was swallowed by the storm, there's no telling. I switch off the outdoor speaker, then zoom in on the entrance camera feed, confirming the outer defenses are undamaged. Good. The bunker has weathered the first wave without a scratch. Just then my phone buzzes again. This time it's not Vivian, it's Derek. Ethan, I know exactly where you are, the underground mall, right? Just wait, we're coming, and soon. So word about the underground mall has already reached Derek. Whether it was Gary who leaked it or Vivian who told him doesn't matter anymore. What matters is they finally set their sights on me. Only this time the door is mine to control. The the supplies are mine. And the path to survival is mine too. I slowly type back one line. Come on, I'll be waiting. After sending it, I pull up a map and take a look. The Golden Grand Hotel sits less than a kilometer from the mall as the crow flies. There's even an abandoned underground passage connecting the two. In the old world, that distance would have been a few minutes' drive, but now within that single kilometer there's a raging storm, deadly cold, the infected, and mobs spiraling out of control. Making it here alive won't be easy for them at all. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the perimeter cameras facing the Golden Grand Hotel finally catch a blurry line of figures. The storm is too thick. I can't make out clear details. Along the way, they flicker in and out of camera range at various intersections, vanishing at times into the sheets of falling snow. Derek is leading the group, with Vivian and a handful of mutual friends, all struggling their way toward the underground mall. Their bodies are wrapped in quilts scavenged from the hotel's storeroom, tablecloths, plastic raincoats. Bedsheets and scarves are wound around their faces. Their hands and feet are hastily sealed with plastic wrap, tape, and garbage bags. Even so, every time they reappear on camera, their numbers shrink a little more. Some can't keep walking and are forced to shelter in roadside shops. Others duck into a parking garage and never catch up again. By the time they finally near the underground mall, a group that started with over a dozen has dwindled to just 7. Derek grips Vivian's arm, dragging her along. Her face is pale as paper. She used to care about her image above all else. She'd never leave the house without flawless makeup, would throw a fit if her shoes picked up a speck of dust. But now she's covered in filth and blood, her hair plastered messily across her face, as disheveled as any refugee. I sit in the control room, watching in silence, feeling nothing at all. In my past life, this is exactly how I crawled through the snow, step by step. Only back then I braved that storm to find her medicine. This time she's come all this way just to beg me to open a door. Soon, several swaying dark shapes appear behind them. Derek notices immediately, his face shifting, and he picks up the pace. Hurry! The mall's right up ahead. Once we're inside, we're safe. Vivian's lips have already turned blue from the cold. She sobs, Derek, I can't walk anymore. Derek glances back at her, a flicker of impatience crossing his eyes. Do you know what time this is? Stop being so dramatic. Vivian freezes. In the past, Derek was always gentle and attentive around her. He'd hand her water, carry her bags, put on a whole show of understanding devotion in front of me. But now, the apocalypse has barely even started, and his patience is already spent. Vivian finally realizes Derek was never the pillar of support she imagined him to be, but it's already too late. Half an hour later, they finally appear outside the mall's entrance. Derek looks up at the camera, pounding hard against the outer metal door. Ethan, open up, we're here! Vivian lifts her head too, tears spilling down instantly. Ethan, it's me. I know you're in there. Please open the door. I really know I was wrong. I switch on the outdoor speaker. Static crackles, and my voice comes through the speaker. Wrong about what? Vivian, as if grasping a lifeline, rushes to answer. I shouldn't have pressured you about the house. I shouldn't have said those hurtful things. I shouldn't have gotten so close to Derek. Ethan, if you just let me in, I'll listen to everything you say from now on. Derek's expression darkens. Vivian! But she doesn't even glance at him. She just stares fixedly at the camera, tears streaming down her face. If this were my past life, seeing her like this would have melted my heart instantly. But now, I just find it bitterly ironic. I continue. Vivian, if I open this door right now, can you promise you won't take Derek's side? Can you promise you won't join them in forcing me to hand over everything in here? Can you promise that once you're inside, you won't treat this place like it belongs to all of you? Vivian opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. Because deep down she knows, if that door actually opened, her very first thought wouldn't necessarily be gratitude toward me, but how to survive, how to get Derek inside too, how to turn this place into her next crutch. Derek's expression flickers, but he quickly recovers with a cold sneer. Ethan, don't try to drive a wedge between us. There are infected everywhere out here, and you're just sitting in there interrogating us. I look at him. Derek, what you actually want was never a way to survive. It's what's inside this mall. From the moment you found out its location, what you were thinking about was never how to get rescued. It was how to get in, how to take what's here. Derek's face changes completely. He drops the act, bends down, and picks up a rock, slamming it hard against the camera's protective casing. A loud crack. The casing just shudders, not even a scratch on it. Ethan, stop playing mind games in there. I'm telling you, if you don't open this door today, once I get in, none of this will necessarily be yours anymore. Vivian's face goes white. She finally understands. Derek was never asking me to save their lives. He wants to force his way in and take everything inside the mall. And she's nothing more than the bargaining chip Derek's using to make me open the door. She quickly steps back, staring at him. Derek, didn't you say we were just supposed to get Ethan to save us? Derek whips his head around, every trace of gentleness gone from his face. Do you actually think this is the time to believe begging alone would get that door open? Vivian freezes. Derek gives a cold laugh. If you hadn't told me Ethan was soft-hearted, and that he'd always do whatever you said, you think I would have risked bringing you along? You think I've been looking out for you this whole way for no reason? It's because you're the key to getting that door open. Once it's open, what's inside is our real chance at survival. Vivian stands frozen in place. She'd always believed Derek genuinely cared about her, that at a time like this, at the very least, he'd protect her. But in the end, she was never anything more than a tool for Derek to use to pry this door open. I sit in the control room, tapping my fingers lightly on the desk. Sometimes the truth doesn't need my help at all. People will tear each other's masks off all on their own. Just then, a low growl echoes in the distance. Several dark shapes have already been drawn in by their arguing. I give a warning. You have 30 seconds left. Derek's expression shifts. He pounds on the door again. Ethan, open it. Open it now, and I'll still promise you won't end up frozen. I don't answer. Even now, he's still trying to posture. Vivian's legs give out, and she collapses into the snow. She tries to push herself up, but her hands and feet are too numb with cold. She can only sob, staring up at the camera. Ethan, please, I don't want it to end like this. I really do know I was wrong. I watch her. There's no satisfaction in me, and no pity either. Only a quiet sense of finality. Vivian, I gave you chances. But every single time you chose someone else. This time, I'm choosing myself. She completely breaks down. Ethan, please, give me one more chance. I don't answer again. The dark shapes in the distance draw closer and closer. Derek finally panics. He glances back, then his eyes fix on the emergency kit in Vivian's hands. The one I just dropped out through the outer delivery slot. Inside are a few ration bars, 2 heat packs, and a hand-drawn map to a nearby emergency shelter. Vivian clutches it tightly, holding on like it's her very last lifeline. Suddenly, Derek lunges at her, snatching the kit right out of her hands. Vivian freezes. Derek, what are you doing? Derek doesn't even look at her. He turns and runs. Only now does Vivian truly understand. Even to the very last moment, the only person Derek ever wanted to save was himself. She staggers after him, grabbing hold of his coat. Derek, you can't leave me behind. He turns back, his face twisted with cruelty. Get off me! He shakes her off violently. Vivian falls hard into the snow. The emergency kit clutched in her arms is torn away from her completely. She stares, stunned. Derek, that was given to me by Ethan! Derek doesn't even slow down. He bolts around the street corner, kit in hand. The ration bars, the heat packs, and the shelter map inside it were the only thing that might have kept them alive after leaving here. But he doesn't even spare Vivian a single backward glance. She lies face down in the snow, watching Derek's figure grow smaller and smaller in the distance. In that moment, something finally seems to click. Derek was never trying to save her. All he ever wanted was whatever could keep himself alive. And she had only ever been a tool for him to use to force this door open. She didn't lose to the apocalypse. She didn't lose to the infected. She lost to her own greed and to her own betrayal. Vivian struggles to lift her head, catching sight of the camera. Her mouth opens, as if trying to say something more, but the storm is too loud. I can no longer make out the words. The camera feed flickers a few times. Several dark shapes close in through the curtain of snow. I don't keep watching. I simply switch off that camera feed. A few minutes later, all that comes through the outdoor mic is the wind. Derek never sends another message. Vivian's chat window never lights up again. The next morning, I pull up the entrance security camera once more. All that remains outside the door is the thermal suit I once gave to Vivian, half buried in the snow. I look at it for a long time, then switch off the screen. It's only now that the resentment weighing on my chest for an entire lifetime finally lifts. That same morning, I pull up the backup camera feed at the street corner. Derek didn't get far. After snatching the emergency kit, he'd meant to head for the shelter marked on the map, but he was too afraid someone might steal his supplies. He clutched the kit tightly the entire way. Trying to avoid other survivors, he ignored the safe route I'd marked and ducked into a shorter side alley instead. The very alley that, in my past life, had been one of the most infected dense spots in the entire city. On camera, Derek barely takes a few steps in before several dark shapes deep in the alley slowly turn around. He seems to sense something's wrong and immediately stops, trying to turn back, but it's already too late. More and more infected close in from behind the storm and abandoned cars. Derek stumbles backward, clutching the kit, but dark shapes have already appeared at the alley's entrance too. His escape route is completely cut off. On the camera feed, he pounds desperately on a nearby rolling shutter, then turns and shouts something toward the underground mall. The distance is too great. I can't make out the words. The next instant, several dark shapes lunge at him all at once. Derek's figure vanishes beneath the infected in an instant. The storm quickly buries the mouth of the alley, swallowing whatever remained of his final struggle. From that point on, Derek never appears again. I switch off that camera feed. The control room falls quiet once more. Outside is the storm, the low growls of the infected, the sound of a world that has utterly collapsed. Meanwhile, here in my bunker, the heat runs steady, the lights burn bright. I walk to the kitchen and ladle myself a bowl of hot soup. As I take the first sip, the scalding warmth slides down my throat and settles into my stomach. And it finally hits me, truly hits me. This time, I've survived. From that day forward, no one ever dares to openly force my door again, the way Gary and Derek did. Gary vanishes without a trace. Derek never resurfaces. And Vivian is lost forever within that great snowfall. But I know this doesn't mean the danger is over. If anything, the true cruelty of the apocalypse has only just begun. Once communications go dark for good, the entire city sinks into a long, endless silence. My phone stops receiving messages entirely. The group chat freezes on its final cry for help, signal bars gone blank. For the first couple of days, I still check my phone every now and then out of habit. Eventually, I just shut it away in a drawer. This world is no longer one you can stay connected to through a phone. The first great snowfall lasts a full 2 weeks. Through those 2 weeks, the sky outside barely brightens at all. The line between day and night reduces to nothing more than a faint shift in gray on the monitor screens. Snow piles up across the streets, burying car roofs, sealing the lower exits of building after building, and burying countless figures who never made it out in time. At its coldest, the outdoor temperature drops past minus 80 degrees. At that kind of cold, an ordinary person simply cannot survive outdoors for long. After 2 weeks, the storm finally begins to ease, and the temperature climbs slowly back up from its lowest point, to somewhere around minus 40 or 50. For an ordinary person, this is still a lethal cold, but it at least gives the few remaining survivors a chance at short-distance movement. And it's during those very days that I gradually piece together the pattern behind the spore infection in the snow. It's not the kind of thing that triggers instantly on contact. Brief exposure through clothing can still be treated in time. The real danger is meltwater from the snow, entering through a wound, the nose or mouth, or clinging to skin for a prolonged period. Once dark patches appear on the skin, it means the infection has already taken hold. Based on what I know from my past life, the longest incubation period is roughly 72 hours. So the very first ironclad rule I set for the bunker is that any newcomer must undergo a full 72-hour quarantine, not a minute less. A few times, I watched survivors emerge from residential buildings, wrapping their bodies in bed sheets, covering their shoes in plastic bags, carrying makeshift tools, trying to reach a supermarket across the street for food. But they've barely made it a short distance before dark shapes begin to stir in the snow around them. Those infected lie half buried in the snowdrift, perfectly still most of the time, as if frozen in place. But the moment they sense footsteps, vibration, body heat, or catch even the faintest sound, they lunge straight at whoever passes by. The camera feed is quickly swallowed by the storm. I don't keep watching. Some images are better left unseen too clearly. They only make it harder to sleep at night. At first, the infected act purely on instinct, chasing anything living. A few days later, they start growing sensitive to sound, vibration, and heat. By day 7, the first high-threat variants appear, their movement noticeably faster and stronger. One of them, drawn in by a heat source, makes its way to the vent near the mall's outer wall. When the external alarm sounds, I'm in the middle of inspecting the power room. The shrill alert cuts through the air, and for a moment my heart drops hard. It isn't fear. It's the memory from my past life, of that door being broken open, flooding back in an instant. I immediately switch to the vent camera feed. On screen, the infected is stationed right by the outer wall, pressed close against the metal safety grating. The next second, it slams into it. Bang! The entire ventilation duct shudders slightly. I don't move, I just watch the screen. Bang! A second hit. Bang! A third. The grating doesn't warp. The filtration system shows no anomalies. The anti-backflow valve holds steady. Only then do I let out a slow breath. Fortunately, I'd already added a soundproofing layer to the ventilation system, along with a heat exchange unit and a disguised exhaust vent. The air actually released outside stays at a low temperature, and the sound is kept to a minimum. That infected was only drawn by an occasional leak of heat. It never found the real entrance. In my past life, I never had a single door that could truly hold anyone back. This time, I've built myself a bunker that can truly withstand the apocalypse. That infected lingers outside for a long while. Eventually it seems to lose interest and slowly wanders out of camera range. Over the following days, more and more infected are drawn in by heat sources and the low hum of machinery. Some ram against the door. Some linger near the outer defensive netting. Some wander around the entrance, making sounds sharp and grating, like someone dragging something jagged slowly back and forth across the door. I don't shut off the monitors, and I don't fully mute the sound either, because I have to get used to it, this indifference. It won't grow any quieter just because I'm afraid. I live by a strict daily routine. I wake up at 7 every morning, check the power, check the fuel, check the water cycling system, check the air filtration, log the outdoor temperature and the movement patterns of the infected, then eat, exercise, organize the storage bay, and patrol all 3 underground levels. In the first few days, I can barely sleep soundly. The faintest sound in the middle of the night jolts me awake instantly, and I stare at the monitors for a long time. Sometimes I dream I'm back in my past life, dreaming of Vivian opening that door, dreaming of Derek storming in with a crowd behind him. When I wake, I sit in the darkness for a long while, until I've confirmed all 3 blast doors are locked tight, that the power is running normally, before I let myself lie back down. Security, it turns out, isn't something that just appears once you have enough supplies. It has to be earned day by day, through confirmation, confirming the door is still there, the food is still there, confirming no one will ever push me out into the cold again. On day 10, I plant the first batch of vegetables on basement level 3. Lettuce, scallions, potatoes, a few pots of tomatoes. As I press the seeds into the growing trays, my hand pauses for a long moment. In my past life, through 6 months of apocalypse, I barely saw a single true patch of green. Every edible leaf had long since been stripped away by desperate hands. Even the grass in the neighborhood flower beds had been dug up and boiled for food. Back then, a single fresh leaf was rarer than gold. So when the very first sprout of tender green pokes up from the growing tray, I stand under the grow light and stare at it for a long time. It's tiny, small enough to be crushed by a single fingertip. But in a world where even a cup of hot water can save a life, this small patch of green brings me more comfort than an entire warehouse of canned goods. Canned food will eventually run out, fuel will eventually burn away. But as long as seeds can still sprout, this place is more than just a shelter. It's somewhere I can truly go on living. A month and a half later, the number of survivors outside starts to dwindle. At first there were still people dragging injured legs past the entrance. Some collapsed at the door crying, some pleading through the camera for a single scrap of food. Over time, those voices grow rarer and rarer. Not because they've stopped wanting to ask, but because fewer and fewer people are even able to make it this far anymore. Late one night, the external monitor picks up an old man, a battered medical kit strapped to his back, slipping and stumbling his way to the mall's entrance. He doesn't pound on the door. He doesn't curse me. He doesn't beg to be let in. He simply leans against the doorframe and pulls a piece of cardboard from inside his coat, stained with dried blood, a few shaky lines scrawled across it. I am a doctor, not infected. I can treat the sick. I only ask for a sip of hot water. I stare at the monitor for a long time. I recognize that face. In my past life, while searching for fever medicine for Vivian, I once ran into him in an abandoned clinic. By then the clinic had already been picked clean by scavengers. I was on the verge of giving up hope, but he pulled the last 2 fever pills from a hidden compartment in his medical kit and gave them to me. His hands trembled from the cold. The pills were wrapped in a thin scrap of paper, its edges worn soft from handling. I stood there, stunned. What about you? I'm old, I get through one day at a time. You're young, save whoever you can, however many that turns out to be. Those 2 pills ended up saving Vivian's life. But she never once knew they'd been rationed out from the dwindling life of a man who was barely holding on himself. I switch on the outdoor speaker and ask if he's had any direct contact with blood. The old man lifts his head, his voice hoarse, barely audible. No direct contact, frostbite on my arm but no dark patches. I don't open the door right away. Instead, I activate the outer buffer zone. The first door opens just enough, wide enough for exactly one person. The moment he steps through, the first door seals shut behind him. Then comes snow removal, an airlock shower, disinfectant spray, and containment of his outer layers of clothing. A disposable quarantine suit and spare padded clothes are provided, followed by a temperature scan and wound inspection. He spends a full 72 hours in the outer buffer zone. Throughout that time, I only pass him water, ration bars, and basic medicine through the delivery slot. On the 3rd night, once I've confirmed no signs of infection, no fever, no aggressive behavior, I finally allow him into the quarantine room on basement level 1. When he first sees me, he doesn't ask whether he'll be allowed to stay. Instead, he glances toward the medical bay, asking quietly, "Do you have any usable medicine here?" I look at him. He gives a wry smile. Don't get me wrong, I'm a doctor. Whenever I see medicine, I can't help thinking about patients first. I watch his stooped, weathered back staying silent for a long while. This world can turn plenty of people into monsters, but some still remember who they used to be. From that day on, I stopped shutting everyone out on principle. But every time that door opens, there are rules. No exceptions. Later, I take in a pair of siblings. When the boy was chased by the infected all the way to the edge of the mall, already on the verge of collapse himself, he still held his sister tight against his chest, shielding her. Knocking on the door, he says just one thing. "Save my sister. I don't have to come in." I let them into the buffer zone for quarantine. 72 hours later, both siblings are alive. When the boy wakes, he tries to drop to his knees in front of me. I stop him. The 3rd person to arrive is the very man who, before the apocalypse, warned me to be careful during construction, the repairman. By the time he arrives, one of his legs has almost completely lost feeling. He speaks to me through the speaker. "Boss, I won't cause any trouble. All I've got is this set of repair tools. If you take me in, I'll fix your pipes and your wiring for as long as you need. If you won't, just point me towards somewhere I can wait out this storm. That's fine too." I stay silent for a long while, then finally let him into the buffer zone. It takes the old doctor 3 days to save the man's leg. After cleaning the wound, the repairman spends a full 2 weeks recovering in the quarantine room before he can stand on his own again. Once he's recovered, he helps me reinforce several sections of the outer piping, and helps me convert a backup maintenance passage as well. From that point forward, I'm no longer the only one in this bunker. And that same day, the rules are formally set in stone. First, anyone entering the living quarters must first complete a 72-hour quarantine. Second, all supplies must be registered and shared collectively, no private hoarding. Third, no one may approach the control room or the power room without authorization. Fourth, no one may incite unrest, break the rules, or open any door without authorization. Violators are expelled immediately. Fifth, the bunker can save lives, but it will never risk everyone's life just to save one person. I post these rules in the most visible spot at the basement level 1 entrance. The old doctor reads them and offers only one comment. Strict rules are a good thing. In lawless times, it's the absence of rules that gets people killed. 2 months later, the city has lost every trace of its former self. High-rises stand buried under ice, streets vanish beneath snow, malls, hospitals, schools, all of them have become haunts for the infected. But the bunker, meanwhile, has settled into steady stability. The old doctor organizes the medical bay, sorting medicine by use and expiration date. The boy takes charge of monitoring the outer cameras, while his sister helps water plants in the grow room. The repairman joins me in methodically inspecting the drainage systems, the walls, and the backup wiring. This underground mall is finally more than just my own personal shelter. It's starting to feel like a place where people can actually live, long-term. Now and then, survivors still pass by the underground mall. Some beg for help, some hurl insults, some try to pry the door open, and some weep outside, confessing their regrets, admitting they once robbed others and only now finally understand what it feels like to have hope stripped away. Half a year later, the relentless deep freeze storms finally begin to ease. The sky remains a dull gray, the sun a faded copper coin hanging behind thick layers of cloud. The infected haven't vanished, but the survivors who remain have already begun rebuilding some sense of order. A handful of survivor outposts start appearing along the city's edges, people using abandoned malls as barricades, sheltering from the cold in underground parking garages, some even lighting fires again, clearing paths through the snow, scavenging for anything still usable. I don't join any of these outposts, and I don't throw open the mall's doors to take everyone in either. This bunker is a lesson I paid for with my own life. I can offer a portion of food to the innocent, a bottle of water to a child on the edge of collapse, and I can let those who truly follow the rules shelter one night from the storm in the outer buffer zone. But behind that door, the living quarters, the power room, the storage bay, that will never open casually to outsiders because I understand this clearly. In this world, kindness can exist, but it must have limits. Over the course of that year, I've watched too many people kneel outside this door in tears, watched too many turn on each other over half a bag of rice. I've watched people abandon those closest to them to save themselves, and watched others go hungry rather than take the last bite of food from their own family. This world magnifies greed in people, but it also pushes the few remaining sparks of genuine kindness into the sharpest possible focus. A year later, I stand in the control room of the underground mall facing a full wall of monitor screens. The city on those screens is still buried under ice. Abandoned high-rises standing silent in the storm. The occasional infected still shuffling slowly past a street corner. But I'm no longer afraid. Because behind me stands a generator running steady and strong, living quarters glowing with warm light, and a grow room lush with green growing vegetables. In my past life, I was the one shoved out into the cold. This time, I'm the one standing inside. 3 blast doors lock behind me, one after another. The key is in my hand. And this time, my life is mine to hold.